So as I was just saying, then the main reason for this was just to sort of the clients that I've got, which obviously Rob, you're one, and we were trying to save a bit of time in terms of trying to arrange book individual calls in with clients to go through things like that. I've been taking meetings to help with like cash flow forecasting and help with sort of the advice and the grants that the government are doing. But I thought as an overall presentation, I'll do something like this, and then you can dial in and listen to it and ask questions, and anything that's on a personal level we can take offline and we can arrange later. But I've got a presentation here which I'll share as well, but it take about half an hour, 40 minutes, and then the rest of the time is Q&A, but you can ask questions during it. Seeing as those are so few of us, we can just take it as it comes, really. I'll do the presentation as I would do normally, just for the benefit of that I'm recording it, so if people want to watch it at a different time, then it's there. So a little bit of background to me, just so you can know kind of what position I'm talking from. I won't give you a full history, but in 2006 I qualified as accountant, and my first job after post-qualification was finance director for a company called Alstom, which are a big French engineering company. I was the FD in Spain, and then I moved to Switzerland and was FD finance director in Switzerland. And part of my role there, they would parachute me into regions or offices in different countries where these business units were suffering, challenges with cash, cost management. The division I worked for built power stations, so we was a full turnkey project, i.e. we did everything from the engineering, the procurement, the construction. Projects worth €1 billion, and I was basically there to help out if there's any problems from a cash flow, cost management, and also I would set up offices in these. So in terms of cash, even for big companies like Alstom, cash was so key to manage, and not managing it properly would put you in a very precarious situation. So I was in countries like the UAE, Ireland, France, and Paris, and I worked in Spain as well, and Norway. And then one of my last job for Alstom was FD for Alstom Netherlands, and that role was around about 2018, which was the height when the crash started. So I think we all agree the crash at the moment that we're looking at, or the economic crisis, is on a total different scale to what 2008 was. But still, during that time, it was a very precarious time, and even big companies like Alstom were affected. So we had to put a lot of measures in to sort of preserve cash, looking at ways to cut costs to save the different business units that we had and as an overall company. And I learned a lot during that time, and I worked with some amazing people. I had some mentors, vice presidents of finance that I worked with was a mentor of mine, a guy called Derek, and I worked with the vice president of finance for the Netherlands, and then the CFO, and worked very closely with them on this, managing it. So a lot of experience from that perspective at a very high level. But then after that, come to the UK, and I was working as a freelance finance director for a lot of private equity firms, where they would put me in places which again were struggling, things weren't going right, and running out of cash, burning through the investment quite quickly. And I had also worked in businesses that I've had of my own, and I've invested in businesses, and I've been very much in the shoes that most of my clients have been in that I've ran and owned businesses, and I have been there where I'm thinking, crap, how we're going to pay wages next week. And I've been there where businesses have done well, and we've had lots of cash and looked at growing and investing in businesses. But so I think from my own experience, being right in the front line of businesses experiencing challenges and managing cost base and cash, I've got a lot of relevant experience in that, and that's what I'm hoping to use in this webinar for people, but also in terms of our clients, helping them through this situation. Cash is so key. I mean, there's a saying which I put in the intro email about turnover is vanity, profit is sanity, but cash is the reality, and that's what my old boss used to say. So you can have as much revenue and lots of profits, and people don't sometimes get the head around why, well, if I'm making profits and I should have cash flow. Not necessarily, because some of the biggest companies during the crash went down and had great turnover. You can invoice your work, but you're not getting paid, but you still got costs going out, so your profit and loss can look great. But if you're not getting paid for the work in physical pound notes, then you're going to run out of cash quite quickly and not have a business. So it is the lifeblood of it. So that's just a little bit of background to myself and why I can really speak with authority on these matters, because I've been there and done it. So I'm just going to go through the presentation. And again, I'm not going to do death by PowerPoint, but it's just as an aid memoir for me to work with in the webinar. So the agenda, we're going to look at assessing how you assess your business situation, look at some sensible decisions and actions that you can take now. Some things you may have already thought of, some of them are very obvious, and sometimes it needs someone to point out the obvious to actually do it. And then just a quick review of financial help that's available from government at the moment. So assessing your own business situation. Garbage in, garbage out. What do we mean by that? Well, before you can assess your own business situation, you need to have all your books and your financial records up to date. There's no point trying to work out a plan of action when it comes to cash flow if you don't know what you're owed, you don't know what you owe, and you don't know what costs are essential to your business. So it's really important that you have up-to-date financials and information available to you, so you can actually look at and see what position you are in financially. It also helps with when we talk about some of the funding available, what the banks are going to be looking for, and a big thing is they're going to look for up-to-date management accounts, which we'll touch on later. But yeah, garbage in, garbage out. If you're not got those real good financial records up to date, then it's going to be very difficult to assess your situation. So we're going to have a look at some of the easiest ways to get cash in. As I said, it kind of maybe some things are very obvious and some not so obvious. But we can look at things like, well, what debts can you get paid with or without a payment plan? So if people are owed money, owe you money, is there ways that you can get paid without having them to be on a payment plan? A lot of people are going to be in a similar situation, so they're going to say, oh, well, I owe you 10 grand, can I pay you £1 grand a month or something like that? So have a look at debt. Look at your debts first of all that you can get paid in full, and looking at your client base and the invoices outstanding and seeing the ones where I think, oh, they're going to want a payment plan, but let me focus on the ones that I know can pay me and are good for the money, get that money in. Reduce some of your payment terms up front, ask for some payments up front. If you are starting work in this period, then you may already do this, but it's always good to sort of ask for a percentage of the value of the contract up front. Provide options, maybe they can pay by credit card. We use something called Go Cardless, which is a really good and a cheap, effective way of collecting payments, and you can send a link and they can click on that and pay by credit card and your invoice. So all our clients, we use Xero, and they use Xero for the invoicing, and it can link with Go Cardless, and it puts that link onto the invoice, which someone can click on and pay by credit card. So that might be helpful to some clients in terms of they can spread the payments over a certain period of time, the credit card and not with you. And if you wanted help into setting that up, then you can give me a call or email me or contact me, and I can set that up for you in Xero. Always having a look at who you haven't invoiced yet but need to. Again, that's a good thing. If you've got lots of clients, so sometimes you can miss out, so it's good to really have a look at anyone that you've got any work in progress that you've not invoiced. The VAT deferment, well, HMRC have allowed any VAT payments that are due in this period to be deferred to the 31st of March 2021. So yeah, that helps, but ultimately you will have the VAT bill to pay at the end in March 2021, but for immediate cash flow, that does help. Government grants or loans you can access to tide your business over, have a look at those. And again, we'll touch on what's available later on. Discussing with your landlord, if you're paying rent, can you access grants that are available? Again, we'll touch on all that in the latter part of the presentation. Sorry, in the later part of the presentation. And looking at customers that owe you money that you think will be good, or maybe cash rich, and could pay in advance or maybe pay a discount. So, you know, something we did at Alstom, where we offered some of our clients, when they were making down payments on the projects, or they're making stage payments, we'd say, well, if you could pay us, say, 2 weeks early, we'll give you 5% off, and things. So, you know, simple things like that can help. You know, yeah, it affects the profit margin, but going back to the point at the beginning, it's about cash, not about profit. It's about getting your cash in right now. Looking at your cost base is also very important. You know, have a look at your essential spend. You know, we don't have a business if we don't cut this essential spend. But, you know, things like, I don't know, what, maybe website costs, or just stuff which that you can't cut, then, you know, you got to look at those. That's what I mean by essential spend. So yeah, website costs, if you cut your website costs, then you haven't got a website, and if you're relying on that for trade, then that's not a cost you can cut. Spend that where you could cut, which would hurt the business, but you still have a business. You know, wages is a big thing. You know, yeah, it's a big spend, and it could hurt, but you would still have a business if you looked at your staff and your resources, and maybe you could have a look at things like that you could cut. And we'll touch on the job retention scheme later on, which the government have offered to help with. You could look at spend that you could cut if you did things differently. So, you know, looking at cheap suppliers, people tend to not look at different suppliers. You know, they're paying the bills, paying on a direct debit, and they just leave it. But it's always good to have a look, and even without a crisis, we would recommend to look at that anyway. You know, looking at your suppliers and see if you can get, you know, a cheaper stationery supplier, cheaper utility supplier, cheaper anything. Just have a look. It's always good to have a look at your costs and to see if you can switch. And often you will get discounts for new customers and things like that. Automating a process to make the business more efficient. So, you know, that could go in hand with wages. If you can automate certain aspects of your business, which would mean that you could then cut some of your wage bill. Something that we've done with a few clients, you know, some of them have got their own in-house bookkeepers, and just to save money, it's not to put someone out of a job, but they can furlough that bookkeeper, they can get the cost of that bookkeeper, and then we're doing the bookkeeping, so, you know, at a lower cost. So it's reducing that bookkeeping, and then once all this is over in the back end, they can go back to the in-house bookkeeper. But a few of my clients have asked us to do that, and it's worked out okay, because, you know, the bookkeeper's still getting a wage, and the company's getting 80% of that wage, and then they're getting a reduced cost. We're not as expensive as an in-house bookkeeper. Are there things that you could cut temporarily or postpone with some negotiation? So, you know, are there any suppliers that you could negotiate a payment holiday? Could you look at suppliers that you could, you know, pay on the drip, or maybe there's a big bill which you could say, look, in that situation, can we pay you 20% now, 20% later, and then pay the balance in a few months? Obviously, they're going to be in the same situation, so there's going to be some sort of medium to agree on that. VAT and pay-as-you-earn corporation tax. Well, VAT's already been postponed. Pay-as-you-earn and corporation haven't, but there is a dedicated line HMRC have set up to discuss time to pay. So if you have got pay-as-you-earn bills and corporation tax bills coming up, if you can say to HMRC that your business has been affected by COVID-19, then they are being a lot more, lenient on these time to pay. So it is always worth talking to them. Pension payments, you know, if you're paying personally into your pension, or your company's paying the pension, you know, maybe you could postpone that. One of the key things I always say when you're looking at cutting costs or trying to negotiate with suppliers, or you've got bills that you can't pay, is communication. Communication is really key. Don't bury your head in the sand and hope that they won't chase you for the money. And that's with HMRC, and that's with all your suppliers. Always have those channels of communication. Always keep it open. And I think the main takeaway from this, when you're trying to manage cash, is communication with the people that owe you money, and communication with the people that you owe money to. A few years ago, we had an e-commerce fashion business that had got into a lot of trouble over a lot of suppliers' money. It was about £350,000 worth of stock, which of bills which they'd not paid, and all that she was doing was just kind of just ignoring the bills. So, you know, we went in, helped them out by negotiating payment plans with the suppliers. You know, a lot of them want the cash, so if they're worried that they're going to have it written off or lose it completely, then they're open to a deal. And so literally every supplier, we managed to agree a payment plan, and we stuck with it, and we were fine. The business flourished and kept going. But it was because we opened communication. We're very honest with them, said, look, this is reasons why it's going in a bit of trouble, and we do want to pay you, can we agree a payment plan? And that was with, from memory, it was about 10 or 12 suppliers that we had to do that, but it worked. Non-essential spend, have a look at that. You know, there's an impact. There's no impact if we cut this, and there may be things that you forget about that you're on direct debit. We see it a lot with agencies in particular. You know, lots of software subscriptions and licenses where if we've had to trial them and then forgot to cancel the direct debit, because and then the payments start coming out. There's software licenses that they don't use. You know, there's things like that that you could easily look to cut, and you know, they might be small and you're not noticing because they're like 20 quid or 30 quid or something like that, but they all tally up. And with one company, we did it before the crisis. We were just looking at costs, and we saved over £1,200 on software subscriptions a month. There's some short and long-term ways of reducing your overheads as well. You know, you can look at things accessing the government's coronavirus job retention scheme, where they'll cover 80% of your wages up to £2,500. Asking for a payment holiday for your rent from your landlord. You know, your landlord will be getting some help from the government, so you know, could that be passed down? Recruitment fees, probably you're already doing that. No one's really taking more staff on if they're in trouble or worried about the situation. Can you ask staff to move on to part-time hours? You know, look at a 4-day working week. Just some of the things. I mean, these are some of the things we did at Ulster, and some of the companies that I've been working as an FD for in the past, and some of the ones that I've been involved with their own, because these are just some things that we did to reduce our larger overheads. Get creative legally. So what do we mean by that? Well, you know, getting creative legally is, you know, can you change your business model so that you find your equivalent of, say, the toilet roll in the crisis? You know, restaurants and retailers, you see them now offering a home delivery and takeaway option for the first time. You know, is there some way you can boost demand for your firm services by marketing differently? We had one. There's a friend of mine who'd invested in a company, brewery, and they were mainly selling into the hospitality industry. So when the lockdown happened, their market completely fell off the face of the earth, basically. And what they did, within a week, they shifted to online B2C deliveries. They set up a website, an e-commerce platform, and we're able to, and now it's growing faster than it was before, and they're flying. So, you know, there are ways that you can adapt quickly and look at that. So, you know, it's an opportunity to look at you changing your business model if you can in any way, or looking for opportunities which you can do that. So we're going to just have a look now at some of the financial help. Now, by the time we've written this, you know, most people are aware now because it's well publicised in the news and on social media of what's help. So you may already know some of this. The only caveat would be, even in using this presentation, is that things change. Particularly when they first announced a lot of these measures, things were changing daily. So it was like we were announcing or relaying to clients what the help was, and then a day later the client would ring me back and said, "Oh, but HMRC have said this, and they updated it sort of last night, and you've just seen it before me." So things change. I think it's settled down now a lot, so I can't see a lot of changes happening now. But you know, there's help out there, so we'll cover those just in case, you know, for anyone watching this later on that doesn't know how they all work, or you know what the government is doing. First of all, why are they giving all these handouts? Well, as we said at the start, this is an economic crisis that no one has seen, and if the government did nothing, then the economy would likely contract by 20%. In the news yesterday, they were saying 35%. I mean, to put that into perspective, a 1% contraction is a recession. 20% contraction is a Great Depression. So if they're talking 35%, then it certainly is a very worrying times for the economy. We're seeing a temporary and severe contraction in demand, and it's not just the UK, it's the whole world that's been placed on lockdown. And this is no way the same as the credit crunch in 2008. So the government are giving these handouts because they want the economy to bounce back quickly. But this doesn't happen if all these businesses go bust. And it makes a lot of the workforce redundant at the moment. I think there's 2 million unemployed since the outbreak of the virus and the lockdown in the UK. So these handouts are there to help businesses carry on trading after the worst is over, and also to help people to put food on the table. They're not there to help currently healthy and trading businesses. It's really for those that are really going to be affected massively by this, which I think is virtually everyone. But there are businesses which will have lots of cash reserves that could get through this through their own reserves. So looking at some of the handouts and some of the help, so self-employed income support scheme. To benefit from this, you have to be self-employed. What the self-employed means is that you do not receive your income as a mixture of salary and dividends, i.e. you don't trade for a limited company, you just trade as a sole trader or a partnership. You've got to have submitted a 2018 tax return, 2018 and 19 tax return. You have to have trading profits of under 50,000, or your average income over the last 3 years was 50,000. And you have to be trading as a sole trader or a partnership in 2019-20 as well. What's different about the job retention scheme, which we come on, as a self-employed person, you can still work and receive the grant from the government, so you can still carry on trade, whereas when we come on to sort of furlough and job retention, you're not allowed to work. Now, I'll talk about that when we come to that section. The value of the grant is equal to 80% of your average monthly profit, up to a maximum of £2,500 per month. In terms of accessing it, don't apply for it at the moment. HMRC will just contact you if you are eligible, and you'll receive a lump sum for 3 months, maybe more if the scheme is extended. Current situation is they're looking like this won't even be paid out till end of June, so you know that's going to be a challenge to people struggling now. That's the latest at the moment that we've heard is the end of June. They're looking to pay out on these schemes. In terms of other support for the self-employed, well, you've got you know, universal credit, business interruption loan schemes, grants which pay, or no business grants for businesses which pay or don't have business rates but would be eligible for business rates, so get an exemption through the small business rates. If you had a self-assessment tax payment due in July, payment on account, then that's been deferred to January 21, and the VAT deferral payments apply to the self-employed as they do to limited companies. In terms of businesses, limited companies, then you have the coronavirus job retention scheme. You can defer VAT and income tax payments. Got the statutory sick pay relief package, which basically means that you get the sick pay from day one. 12 months business rates holidays for all retail and hospitality businesses in England. We've got the small business grant. Again, you have to be paying rates or eligible for small business rate relief to get the 10 grand. And if you're in retail, leisure, hospitality businesses, then you get 25,000. There's a coronavirus business interruption loan scheme. Again, for this, I won't go into detail how that's all working, but there were a lot of issues with that when that was first launched, because the banks were asking for personal guarantees and saying that you were 100% liable for it, whereas the government announced that they were backing that by 80%, and also there was going to be interest free for 12 months. And then I mentioned before about HMRC time to pay schemes. You're able to take advantage of those too by calling the helpline on that. So the job retention scheme, I think it's been well sort of documented in the press and social media on how it works, but for the benefit of this presentation, instead of making employees redundant, you can furlough them, which makes them temporarily redundant, and the government will give you a grant. When we wrote this, we were looking at June, but then they announced last week that the scheme, well, the portal to make the claims will be launched on the 20th of April, with payments being expected to pay out by the end of April. The government also will pay the pension contributions. So if you're paying pension contributions to your staff into the auto enrolment, you'll get that back up to 80% of the value, and the employer's national insurance. At the moment, it's for 3 months, but it could be extended. As I said, the money is likely to be paid April now, not June. Wages paid to furlough employees are still taxable though. And that's actually one thing I forgot to mention on these grants. These grants that you get, the 10 grand from the business rate, they are taxable. They will be treated as taxable income, which I think not a lot of people are aware of, but you know, it's the way the government are going to get their slice. You know, they never give anything away for nothing. Furloughed employees, they will still keep their employee rights while furloughed. Limited company directors, now this is most of our clients because we deal mainly with small and medium-sized businesses. Limited company directors can furlough themselves. So you can get 80% of your wage that you put through the pay-as-you-earn. You can't get the dividend part. Now, this is where a lot, particularly of our client base, falls through the gaps, because a lot of them pay themselves a minimum salary, and then the rest of the salary or drawings or money they take out of the business is done through dividends, and that's just the most tax efficient way. It's been like that for years. But the thing is, they can only get the furlough on the 80% of the pay as you earn. And with all our clients, we put through the minimum allowance, which is 12,500. So that works out about just over £1,000 a month. And they can get 80% of that. But the warnings with that are that a director cannot work. And what they mean by cannot work is they cannot do any revenue generating services. So you can do administrative jobs such as, say, collect old debt, keep the admin side of things, do your legal obligations such as accounts and tax returns and things like that, but you can't actually do any revenue generating activity. Now, a director can go and have another job, he can go work for another company and he can do things and still claim the furlough, but through the limited company he furloughs himself through, he's not allowed to do anything that would generate revenue. And this is a real point to make, because HMRC know that this scheme is open to abuse. They've had to rush it through, and they're going to come down heavily on any that abuse it. I mean, they're talking about, you know, criminal charges as well. So, you know, you have to be very careful if you are a director, you want to furlough yourself, even if it's just to get the 80% of the £1,000. It still helps, but it's just something to bear in mind. The business interruption loan, so just briefly on that, you know, 12 months interest-free payments, as the government pays the interest for your business. When they launched, what the banks were doing, were rolling that 12 months and saying, yeah, you've got 12 months interest-free, but they were rolling it into the second year, so your payments would go, you know, they would shoot up because they'd pile on that 12 months interest that you're not paid for 12 months. Now that stopped. It is generally interest-free. The banks are not allowed to ask for personal guarantees now. When they launched, they were asking for them, but only for loans up to £250,000. To get a loan, your books need to be up to date. You need to have up-to-date management accounts. You're likely to require a cash flow forecast. In fact, everyone that we've done for a client have asked for a cash flow forecast. And your business had to be healthy. So if you were struggling before COVID-19 hit, then it was likely you'll get one of these loans healthy before. So again, that can help. But what I would say, what some businesses have done is use these to consolidate existing debt, and that's worked out quite well to help with cash. So, you know, one client had 40 grand overdraft, was using it, so paying a lot of interest. Managed to get a business interruption loan, and then now it's 12 months interest free, so reduced his outgoings dramatically, and been able to consolidate some other expensive debt as well by paying that off with the business interruption loan. So, you know, even if you're thinking, well, I've got loans, but I don't want to get another loan, it's quite a good way to consolidate some of that more expensive loan and reduce that outgoings every month in terms of cash. So if you need any help with, I mean, the clients, we've been doing these for clients, we've been helping getting the books up to date. Some, you know, clients pay for monthly bookkeeping, so it's not an issue. Some have up-to-date management accounts, so that's been relatively easy. But some don't, to keep the costs down, or want to do it themselves, which is fine. But if you need any help with that, then so you can contact me, and we'll get that sorted for you. And that's really how we can help your business, you know, in terms of those loans. We can also look at taking some things in-house for you. Touched on it before, you know, with a couple of clients, they've furloughed their bookkeeper, and we've taken over those jobs so they can save money. Put your business accounts onto the cloud, so you always know how much money you have. And what we mean by that is using cloud software. So all our clients at RJF are all on zero. So everyone's on zero. To be a client of RJF, you have to be on zero. And that gives you, you know, as long as you keep on safe, can give you real-time information of where the financial position of your business is at. We can help you get a payment facility, so we can set up your customers so they can pay by credit card. That's the go cardless thing I mentioned. We can get your books up to date so you know exactly what you need to do financially. We can help create cash flow forecasts. If you need a template and you want to do it yourself, then you can give me a shout and I can send you the one that we sent out to all our clients. We can help you put together management accounts and future projections so your business can get access to these loans. And also just being a sounding board or advisor to your business. As I said at the outset, I've been there, done it, been right at the front line of businesses in trouble, in cash flow situations. So, you know, probably more so than most other accounting firms, I've been there. So I do know what it's like, and I can hopefully offer you a lot more help and advice than most other people could. So that's really the presentation over. Hopefully you found that useful, and hopefully you've taken some good points away from it. I think what I'd say in summary, managing your cash, is if you are having, you know, preserve your cash as much as you can. It sounds obvious, but you've got to, and the way you can do that is opening communication channels with people that you owe money. I think that was the biggest takeaway is don't bury your head in the sand. Don't think, oh, they won't chase me. Because as soon as you open up that communication channel, it really helps with customers being able to, with suppliers being able to negotiate payment plans, because they're going to be in the same situation. If they're not hearing anything from you, then they get worried because they're thinking, well, I'm not going to get paid here. But if you can say to them, well, you know, look, I know the situation and this is happening, and this, can I pay you some now, or maybe get a discount for the payment? That's a really big thing to take away. And I gave you an example of the fashion business that I was in, and that's what we did. And you know, from looking like it was going to go bust with a lot of debt, we could turn it around. And every single creditor did get every penny back over a payment plan. And the longest we did was a 12-month payment plan. So yeah, so that's it really. Any questions?
Yeah, Rob. Hi, it's Richard.
Hi, Richard.
Can I request one of the templates, the cash flow forecast template?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Let me just. I'll do it now while I'm in my emails, and I don't forget. But if you want a hand, you know, putting together, you just give me a shout. What's your email address there, Richard?
It's RMC.
RMC, yeah.
.Leclardo, that's LECLARDO.
Yep.
At outlook.com.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send you the Excel sheet, and like I say, if you need a hand with it, just I'll put a link in my diary so you can book a time in if you wanted, you know, half an hour just to talk you through it. But it's pretty straightforward. You did it, Rob, didn't you? You had a look at that and was able to navigate through that.
Yeah, it was good. I get confused when people say Rob. I always think they're talking to me.
I know.
Sorry.
I feel like when I'm writing to you, I feel like I'm talking to myself. All right. Have you got any other questions, guys? Rob, Richard, anything else?
I'm all right. That was great. Thank you.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Rob.
Okay, guys. Well, take care, and hopefully I'll speak to you soon. All right.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye bye.
Cheers.